I'm Supermoon Tarot, and I'm so excited to go over today's question. Why did you reincarnate into this body? This is an absolute fantastic question that pulled at my heartstrings, which was recently suggested by Valen Dior. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, because it is a beautiful name. Now, the reason why I love this question, I would have loved this question at any point in time, but it actually has some relevancy to some recent events in my life. I have been, how do I put this? Contacted by a recent, one of my more recent reincarnations of myself. And that version of myself has been telling me why and what they have been hoping to learn in this particular lifetime. It's been really helpful and has brought a lot of clarity to past life events and experiences and has made things make more sense, so to speak. And so when I saw the suggestion, I was like, of course, I've been loving my own personal journey. Hopefully you guys enjoy this too. Now, I do want to answer another question they asked, which was, hey, are you still taking suggestions? And the answer is yes, always. I am always taking suggestions. I love doing this. But the main reason why I do it is to go over messages and answers that you guys want to hear. So I read the comments, I look at what you guys are interested in, and I always take suggestions. So feel free in any single video to put something out there. And if everyone else agrees and likes that question, please thumb it up so I can know what the particular point of interests are for you guys. Anyways, as you can see, we have 4 groups in front of us. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is seafoam calcite, rose quartz, malachite, and pyrite. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group that you resonate with most. Now that you have picked your group, you can go down to the description where you can go to your designated marked timestamp and group. But let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out why did you reincarnate into this body by looking at the cards. Oh, that's so funny. I'll tell you why that's so funny in one moment. When I look at the other cards, we have Gibbous Moon Oracle card, Stormfield's Upright Oracle card, the Sun Upright, Queen of Swords in reverse, 4 of Wands upright, and 5 of Pentacles. I pretty much know what's going on here, but let me pull one more card, because I need more clarity there. Oh, okay, that's really sweet. Oh, cool, and Spirit's telling me something about that. Okay, cool. So I've got everything on lockdown. I know what's going on. So the reason why I was laughing about the Moon Oracle card is before I started doing this and I was pulling my decks, I was told by my spirit guides to include the Moon Oracle deck. And I was like, okay. And they said that they wanted the stages of the moon to act as a narrative of where you're at in your cycles of reincarnation and where you're kind of more towards the end of ascension, so to speak. And it's like we understand technically where you're at and why you're choosing where you're at, because if you've overcome certain lessons, you're more in an experimental phase, so to speak. That's the name of the game over here with the Gibbous Moon. And the Gibbous Moon is, I think, the 3rd to last moon cycle, if you look at them all lined up. So you're pretty close to the end, essentially. And I was laughing because that's what the Gibbous Moon represents. And then over here it literally says you're very close to achieving your goal. So woo, we love that. You are in a very interesting experimental time in your life. But the thing is, if you're not in an observational point of view and viewing it in that way, this can be kind of, how do I put this? Emotional to go through, because I am constantly seeing the repetition between struggle and pain and then just an intense sense of happiness and knowing who you are and celebration. But it's about understanding the way people react around you and how that correlates to you, that you better understand how other people function, how ideas work, and how that then can inspire you to make decisions. And we can get a lot more specific than that so it makes more sense. So over here we have storm fields. Storm fields, it pops up when there's some sort of argumentative like interaction, like a fight's going to happen, something's about to blow up out of proportions. And when this confrontation comes, it might be overwhelming, but it's meant to happen because it's kind of like it's been building to the surface. A lot of things have been left unsaid, and now it's time to pull it all out on the table, so to speak. And this card is actually, in a way, very positive, because while it's overwhelming to experience this type of interaction, what happens is it leads to a better future, either with that person, things are said, people understand each other's interactions. And the common metaphor I use for this card is the idea that not all storms are bad. Storms bring water, and water fertilizes the ground, and that then brings in flowers and plant life, and there's a benefit to what initially maybe doesn't feel that way. So we have that idea of like what seems negative, it's this interaction, is revealing information, right? And then over here we have the Queen of Swords. This is somebody, again, who's very aggressive, but when they are cruel and mean with their words, it cuts particularly deep because they're so smart. They know what it is that bothers you. They know the right thing to say to push the right buttons, and it can be really difficult to speak back to this type of person. Now, I'm being told explicitly this isn't just purely about you experiencing something difficult or a painful interaction with someone like this and like, that's it, you're meant to go through it, it will lead to a better tomorrow. It's about as they express themselves, while it might be volatile, it's like they're revealing how they really feel. Why are they focusing so much on that part of you that they're pointing out that bothers them? And by you understanding how they're expressing themselves, it's like you're able to see and overcome the concept of pain. So it's like about you developing this observer mindset in this lifetime in order to not only have more happiness, it's like a part of the process of like spirituality is like becoming more observational, but it's about understanding what's being said to you no matter the experience, uncomfortable or otherwise, and what can you learn from that. That's the major thing my spirit guides were telling me about over here. What can you learn from them? It's like saying, oh, they have a habit of reacting this way. Well, I don't want to react this way. Or they have a habit of bringing up these ideas. Okay, well, I know what ideas I do want to bring up. And understanding that by kind of bringing up all the difficult stuff up to the surface, it basically saves you a lot of time of understanding what you don't want and then forcing yourself to be like, well, I do know what I do want, because both situations lead to you better understanding yourself and a better tomorrow. Doesn't mean the rest of your life's going to be pain. I just want to point that out. But when we have the Sun card upright, this is so interesting because I find it would be very difficult to have the Sun card's persona after this sort of experience time and time again, because the Sun card is an extremely optimistic and happy card. But there's a feeling of like not having a past behind them. It doesn't mean they don't have one. It's just like they're so present and effortless, and they don't have things kind of like constantly popping up in their life. And it's shown like where you're ultimately leading to and how all of this is benefiting you to get to that mindset. I also want to point out that the Sun card is the OG card that makes you feel comfortable in your own skin. It's like saying, yep, I know who I am, I embody that, I'm really feeling myself, and I because I feel so comfortable, other people do, but it's not even about other people. It's just like I'm totally living my truth. And it's, again, a very blissful card. But it seems like it develops from all of this experience. But again, I just want to be clear, it's not about you learning the lesson about, sometimes people go through difficult things and it's like, oh, it made me who I am. It's about what you take from it, how people reveal themselves, how they express things, how you understand what you want want to experience what you don't want to experience in the long run with other people by these people giving you a sort of example of it. And then you figuring out your way in the world. It's like basically no matter the circumstance that's thrown your way in this world, it's always being turned into something beneficial. So you're like a little scientist, so to speak. Over here, the Five of Pentacles has it's interesting. It's talking about something else negative, but it also has a really sweet connotation when we have the Four of Cups in reverse, the Five of Cups in reverse as well. The Five of Pentacles is this sense of like grief and like a lacking sort of mindset. Sometimes people who have this card really struggle with like physical ailments. And I do want to point out when this card pops up, or like the Strength card pops up, this is when, or the Six of Swords pops up, this is when, and the Temperance card, I'm thinking of all the cards to let you know in your own personal tarot practice. But this is when your body can sometimes take on physical stresses in order to communicate with you that something's wrong. Like, it doesn't mean, it's like you're becoming ill because your body's trying to say, hey, I'm upset, I don't feel like myself, I'm dealing with self-doubt, someone's bothering me. And it's so when you don't feel right, you're trying to tell yourself, oh, I got to evaluate my environment around you. So again, that sense of experiment, expensive communication. But again, it's this idea of like without, this feeling of uncomfortable emotions, you could say, people experience. Because over here in the Five of Pentacles, this is like the lacking. And then over here in the Queen of Swords, this is like hardship through words and intensity, right? But in the middle, we have the Four of Wands, which is like a celebration, really intense stability, people supporting you. Often this involves just like a great time, a party, a sense of like accomplishment. And it's very joyous and usually intimate with people you care about, and just kind of celebrating how far you've come in life and feeling like you can always come back to this safety zone. Interestingly enough, I thought these cards were acting as sort of the barricade and saying like, this is the ultimate place you're going to. These are the things that you understand, and by figuring out how they work, you are then able to overcome them and get to this place. That's like, but you're able to get to that place because again, you understand how their shields are down, how their shields are in the way is how you would better like to barricade your safety space, if that makes sense. But I was also being told by my spirit guides is this, they keep showing this sense of like water parting, this sense of like it was meant to peel away and fall away to the bottom. And I also want to talk about how the Four of Cups, I'm so sorry, I keep saying Four of Cups. The Five of Cups in reverse is not only the confirmation of like you totally overcoming all this grief and loss and overcoming it and not bothering anymore, and it's really beautiful, but both of these cards talk about the idea of love regardless. You're going to, in the long term, in this lifetime, take on this observational point of view, be able to look at all this difficult circumstances you've been through, realize like you kind of cherish and love all of these people. You understand what they taught you. You are able to start sort of take on this mentality of being like, wow, look at what they've been through in their life. And in the many reincarnations they still have to go through in order to get to a better place where they can finally allow love in and forgiveness and compassion, and they don't have to take such a defensive stance or feel the need to project it on me or other people. So it's this idea of somebody who's observational, they're sort of a scientist and experimenter because the things that happen around them are like beautiful things that they can use to their advantage. It shows you celebrating, feeling like the best version of yourself, and in the end, ending with confidence, happiness, and general love for your past and present. Again, I want to point out this can be the long-term experience in your life. It doesn't mean you have to keep experiencing these type of things, but when you feel these, they are kind of like gifts from the universe that you asked for. You want to learn something from them. You don't want to let them consume you. So pretty beautiful, pretty cool, shows how far you've come in your many cycles and where you're headed to. So, experiment, ask the questions, figure out what is not being said or why people are so focused on certain things. Understand that it's not personal, but it is in fact a gift that is going to benefit you, and you will overcome the resentment you might initially feel from parting ways with these other people. So, yay! We love that for you. If you enjoyed this reading as much as I did, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out, why did you incarnate into this body? By looking at the cards. We have Full Moon in Sagittarius Oracle card. We have Dragon's Lair Oracle card in reverse. Okay. All right, triple confirmation. Let's get into this. Justice card upright, Two of Swords in reverse, the Tower upright. Oh, yay! And Six of Wands upright. Yay! We love a happy ending. Okay, cool. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm excited for you. Okay, so the reason why I went, and had a moment was over here. It's nothing dramatic or terrible, but let's get into it. So both of these cards talk about that this lesson you've been needing to learn is something that you have not been able to overcome for several lifetimes. Now, there should be some comfort in this because a little bit of it is about avoidance. You have a slight inkling of when you need to kind of do something and you kind of naturally push it away. But the main thing that keeps popping up in every lifetime when you've repeated this particular concept and cycle is you're not aware of what the main life lesson is. So it's not that you're not stepping up the plate, you just don't know there's even a plate, if that makes sense. So first off, let's start with the full moon. And don't worry, you're going to see what it is. We're going to talk about the details, and it does have a happy ending. So let's get into it. So full moon in Sagittarius is just what it says. Look at the bigger picture. This card is when you need to back up and see the bigger picture. This is when you're kind of starting to stress out because you're caught up too much in the details, when you need to stand back and be like, is there something positive here? Or maybe you're all talk and no action. It's like tunnel vision. You're looking at only one thing and you need to pull back and look at yourself performing the action and be real with yourself and be like, what am I not doing? What am I not seeing? I'm caught up in this narrative, but there's actually a bigger narrative going on, and I can both be a part of it and see how everything's playing out, how I'm reacting to it. I have a friend who often refers to this concept as our blind spots. This is when to everyone else it seems obvious, why have you not tried to fix that or talk about that? And for you, you're just like, what do you mean? That didn't even cross my mind. It's that sort of feeling. And the Dragon's Lair in reverse, unfortunately, is kind of, it sounds more intense than it is, but it's saying that you don't need to learn this lesson anymore. Stop being seduced into thinking you need to go through the same experience over and over and over again. Not like it's easier to avoid it, but what feels like you're avoiding something is acting as a sort of protection is actually holding you back and is quote unquote we'll just say not good for you, and that you know better. It's a compliment saying you know better, you've been through this many times before, you don't need to experience it anymore. Now, the Justice card keeps that conversation going. It talks about karma and cycles and just it being such an pivotal point for you at the minimum to break free of this because you've been through it enough, you've built up enough karma around it, and we're talking about karma as in action. People view karma as just simply something bad you did. It's not like that. Karma is you did something and then that idea carries through until it's either healed or solved or understood or forgiven or let go. You get what I'm saying. So again, this isn't the concept of bad karma. It's just saying you've been needing to overcome this for a while. But we can get more specific with the idea of action and reaction, or when you step up to the plate and try something, you get the equivalent exchange back, and that idea of being proactive. We'll get more into that over here in the Tower card. So, first off, ironically, the thing that is not being seen is the way, how do I put this? It's a combination, okay, I'm trying to say this without making it sound too metaphorical so it comes off like you understand what I'm saying. Let me just start with the definition of the card, and then it will make more sense as we go through it. In the Two of Swords in reverse, you are being asked to, in this lifetime, be aware of making decisions both with your head and your heart. Don't forget that both are meant to be worked together seamlessly and integrated seamlessly. And there are times in this lifetime when you get too much in your head, or you confuse your head for your heart. And it's about being a lot more in tune with your heart, but not fully giving up the logic and the things that your brain is the loudest part of your inner narrative and will speak first. That's fine. Don't get rid of it. It's not bad. It's just that when it gets overactive or overworked, it's kind of piloting the ship and it can't do it alone. So it feels overwhelming to experience without its co-pilot, the heart, so to speak. And you can see how that mirrors the concept we said before. It's like, you keep repeating this idea of not being able to see the bigger, you get caught up in the details and you're not seeing the bigger picture. And ironically, you're not seeing the bigger picture of like, you need to go handle the like, your life lesson, you need to go face this. But the life lesson in itself is the seeing that there is something that can be done, seeing what is not being seen. Does this make sense? I just want to be clear about that. So anyways, we can talk about, and we can get even more specific than that with the decision making when we have the Tower card over here. Again, really heavy fourth confirmation omen that this is something that's been a huge problem in multiple lifetimes, and it's time to finally get rid of it. But with both the way the card is appearing and it being driven by Mars, which is all about inner drive action, we can talk about how there's a tendency to, it's kind of like different for everyone. We'll just loosely describe it as like pulling away, isolation, not wanting to be seen, feeling it's easier to not participate, pull away. It's not a full hardcore case of being like alone or a loner, but it's this almost like subconscious fear of being free to be successful and be happy about it. That's the overarching concept that we can build upon in the Six of Wands and where you're ultimately headed. You are meant to, in this lifetime, be likable. Allow yourself, and this is the key word, allow yourself to be likable. Allow yourself to achieve. But this is something that can only happen if you finally allow yourself to take action, as we talked about over here. This Justice card is somebody who takes action and they get an equal exchange back. They don't wait for life to happen to them or ponder or hope for it, as we talked about in these other cards as well. They say, this is the thing I want to do. This is, I think that's okay, it's fine, and they go make it happen. Mostly it's about you taking action from a place where you feel like you're not able to. And the biggest thing my spirit guides keep telling me over and over again is in the Six of Wands, it's this allowing yourself, saying it's okay if everybody likes me, it's okay if I'm seen, it's okay if I'm popular, it's okay if I'm successful and everybody wants to know what I have to say on a subject. You are meant to be successful in a very, I don't mean to be redundant, but a popular sort of way. It's the act of many people liking you. And that is just not your kind of go-to feeling or emotion right now. And you need to do some deep diving and say, why is that? Because the simple thing is about pulling away from that and changing your opinion. But you might say, well, that's not even what I necessarily want. Exactly. That's where it goes back to the Sagittarius thing where we say, are you caught up in the details? Pull away, look at your situation. How are people interacting with you? How is the world kind of speaking back to you and reflecting that? How does that make you feel? when you feel this way, why do you feel that way back? What do you want instead? It's doing some intense shadow work. I'm being shown there's a lot of blockages that are going to trick you and make you think, no, I don't need a compliment. It's fine. And then it's like, nope, dig deeper. That is just fake. That is just a lie you're telling yourself. Don't allow this lifetime to repeat again, because it's going to keep repeating until you finally allow yourself to thrive. And that's the key word, allowing yourself, with a combination of pulling yourself. Because I'm being told, with Mars in action and justice, by showing the world that you want it, and showing like more than just saying, yes, I allow it. It's like, yes, allowing it. And then actively pushing against what you initially kind of grew up or thought that was like your go-to personality, what you wanted interactive wise. That's when kind of everything is coming together. It's teaching you about action. It's teaching you about allowing yourself success and the enjoyment of it. I can tell you right now, I can already feel it's going to be uncomfortable as heck at first, but it's going to get better. So I'm excited for you. It's definitely, Spirit keeps telling me it's not what you anticipated to hear, but it's still, real. So I hope you enjoyed this reading as much as I did. Feel free to give this video a like, comment, subscribe. It helps out like you would not believe. Sorry, I'm thinking about everything I say at the end. I'm totally forgetting. I'm wishing you the best. I will see you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3, let's find out, why did you reincarnate into this body by looking at the cards. We have... Ooh, I love this card. This is a really beautiful moon. We have full moon eclipse oracle card, coming to life in reverse oracle card. I already know what's going on here in the theme, Ace of Cups in reverse. The theme continues, 5 of Swords in reverse, Knight of Cups in reverse, of course. Yeah, and 4 of Wands in reverse. Okay, this is great. I already know what's going on. I don't even need to take a second. So let's get started. Over here, I want to explain, before I got started on this video and I was pulling out my different decks to work with, my spirit guides reached out to me and asked me to use the Moon Oracle deck. And I was like, okay, well, why? And they said they wanted to use the different cycles of the moon to explain how far along you are in your various cycles before you're ascending. So you could say your ascendant cycles. Now, I want to be clear, when it comes to ascendants, there's not a particular number of life cycles you have to live. And while we are talking about the main core lesson you're learning in this lifetime, if you want to dedicate yourself and figure out whatever you need to figure out in order to ascend in this lifetime, yeah, go for it. We're talking about where you're at, but that doesn't mean you can't go further. You know what I mean? So just always want to put that out there. So with the full moon eclipse card, we can see that you are what I can only describe as the peak. And this is not a word, the most peak. You are at the most singular pivotal point in your ascendance to basically shift over to the second half, the other lessons you will be more focusing on, so to speak. This is more like observational mindset and like experimentation and stuff, and really understanding like the language of the universe. Can you do that in this lifetime? Completely. But for now, this like key lesson you're learning is where you're focusing in, and we'll just start off from there essentially. So before we get into, this is more of like the solution, so to speak. Let's get into the overall idea. So it looks like you, in the 4 of Wands in reverse, you are understanding how to build stability. We'll describe it as stability and security. But I want you to take it a little bit deeper and think of the idea of a safe space. This is your place where, for some people, it's like a literal room in their house. Sometimes it's a mental place in their heart or their head. But it's this idea that you can create a place where you can customize it all your own. You can figure out, it's like, remember how I talked about the second half is all about experimentation? Well, essentially, this little safe space is your laboratory. And so as you start to experiment, you've got a safe little place where you can do it. And it's about understanding how can you foster and build that. Now, you're mostly going to foster and build that through emotions, and we can actually get very specific with that. So over here in the Knight of Cups, you're going to be proactive when it comes to emotions. No, proactive is not the word I want to say, especially with the contradiction over here. It's more like there's different ways to embody, express, think about love, and we want to more focus on expression. If you see over here with all the blues going on, the throat chakra is heavily implied over here. And this is letting somebody know, hey, I really cared about you. Hey, I really appreciated that thing you did. But a huge thing that's popping up, it can be expressed in multiple different ways. There's so many different kinds of love and different feelings we can feel. It's just about experiencing them and letting other people know how you're interacting with them, how you feel about it, how you want to hear about what they have to say, that whole interaction. But with the pink color being so predominant in this, it specifically talks about the idea of compassion. Compassion's huge for you in this lifetime in order to best understand how to build your safe space. Safe space is such an interesting concept because we think of like literally the wands, holding up a house, like walls. But walls can be built with ideas. And sometimes it's about understanding yourself that because you can heal and overcome and fix and place emotions over here and solve them this way and turn them into something more positive, you're basically in a very like you have to understand it's super abstract concept. This is your walls you're building, and it's showing that you essentially can turn the world, because the world is a very emotional place, into your safe space, which is a pretty big arena if you think about that, which I love. So we talked about compassion. That idea of compassion continues over here in the Five of Swords. You are going to heavily focus on forgiveness. This is you making amends with various situations and people. This is with yourself. This is forgiving yourself with past actions. This is about forgiving other people that have wronged you. And I want you to understand this before, and I also want to include forgiving past life situations that maybe you don't even know you're kind of bringing over habits into this lifetime that are from previous interactions you had over other lifetimes. But I want to be clear about something with forgiveness. When we feel a negative emotion back from somebody, like you just see them and you're angry, it's like they still have a hold over you. So when you're not angry anymore and you're like, I forgive you, it doesn't mean that what they did was right. It's about you're finally free. You're like, you know what? I'm ready to move on. It doesn't mean I want to experience this again, and it doesn't mean that situation was okay, but I'm okay to let this go, and I'm okay to let our connection go. I'm ready to move on. And you can either, forgive them and be friends with them, or totally have them out of your life. Again, just always want to clarify, forgiveness does not mean you're okay with what happened. You see what I'm saying? But that forgiveness leads to compassion, which then leads to your security. Now, here's the big thing I want you to pay attention to, because there's, I guess you could say, an unintentional blockage, but it's an easy one we can fix. So the Ace of Cups is representing this new emotional cycle in your life. And that cycle is based on forgiveness and compassion because it's building something bigger, which is your security space, which leads to your experimentation. I mean, what feels like is your whole entire life now emotionally, you're going to look back and be like, oh my goodness, that was just the building blocks to all this other cool stuff I'm experiencing. And I didn't realize now, but I can fast forward this process and overcome this, and then kind of experience what other aspects of life there are. But in this new cycle, and we talked about what the new cycle is, there's a feeling of blockage, obstacle that you're putting up there. It's when you basically are not willing to trust, you're not willing to allow it to happen, most of this is coming from a controlling state of mind. It doesn't mean you're a controlling person. We're not calling any names here. This is just about you thinking this is the best way to protect yourself. Because when we are more vulnerable and trusting and open, we're kind of like putting ourselves out there and thinking like, are we going to get hurt? That's why the forgiveness thing is so huge, because you can never get hurt, because you're always ready to just end think about, you're opening yourself up, and then there's the potential to get hurt emotionally. And this forgiveness and ability to understand other people's perspective and compassion and give that to yourself, give that to other people, it's like you're already getting rid of the potential buildup of grief before it can become something bigger. You're already stomping it out every time. So it allows the ability to be vulnerable, to be open, to be able to better master and understand emotions and build that security when you already have this sort of, think of this as like your protection. Forgiveness seems hard and feels like, why do I have to forgive? But you will soon understand how powerful it is and how much it is in fact protecting you, way more so than the idea of closing yourself off, never trusting anyone, not being able to express your emotions in the more fluidly in the way you would naturally want to in this lifetime. So over here in the Coming to Life Oracle card in reverse, this talks about the idea that everything's working out great, but you're kind of getting in your own way and you don't really need to get involved. The best way this card expresses itself is the idea, it's like, let's say you're a farmer and this new emotional cycle is these seeds you've planted. And you can't quite see how far the roots have grown yet, so you're impatiently waiting, like, are the sprouts gonna come to the surface? Have I done the right thing to farm and then foster a long-term garden? And Coming to Life Oracle card is you pulling up the plants and checking there's roots. And well, now that you've pulled them out, you've shocked the roots and now they can't really grow. And it's about stepping back and be like, okay, I'm messing with the process. I gotta let it do its thing for a little while. I gotta let it flourish and become its own thing. Let me pull back. I don't need to rush the process. I don't need to rush vulnerability. I just need to not get in the way. So easy, hard, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I have the most compassion for you and what you're going to go through. But overall, it is going to be what feels difficult and hard and painful will be freeing and happy and make you feel safer and stronger and open up a larger scope of possibility, which we love. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe, especially I can hear in the background my neighbors in the hallway talking. Oh my goodness. Give the video a like for that. And I will see you in the next one. I'm wishing you the best. And let's get ready for group number 4. Group number 4. Let's find out, why did you reincarnate into this body by looking at the cards. We've got Full Moon in Aquarius, upright. Unexpected Visitors Oracle card, upright. Knight of Cups, upright. Oh, okay. The Hierophant, upright. The Devil card in reverse. Ooh, and the Ace of Swords, upright. Let me make this a little bit brighter. Okay, this is fun. This is going to sound a bit contradictive, but we can get into specifics because sometimes two totally opposing concepts can exist at the same time harmoniously. In this case, it's less about duality between two different things. It's more like I can get specific. Over here, it talks about detachment. It's like sometimes you're going to want to be more detached and sometimes you're going to want to be aware of when you're too detached, and then essentially integrating it at the right times. And you'll know when. We can go over specifics here. But before we get into all of this, let's talk about, this is kind of cool. So before I got started doing this pick a card, I was pulling out my different decks, and essentially my spirit guides reached out to me and were like, use your Moon Oracle deck. And I was like, oh, okay. Why? And they simply said, well, we're going to use the different moon cycles to express the level of ascendance somebody is in their life cycles. I want to be clear, there's not a certain amount of numbers you're going to be in before you're going to ascend. You know what I mean? Like there's not, there isn't like, oh, you have to go through 78 or 300. It's different for each person. And to be clear that even though right now this is talking about you are in the sort of halfway through, you have got more life cycles to go through, you're kind of at the halfway point. These are ideas. So you're halfway through the ideas you need to accomplish. If you wanted to push past what we're expressing right now and, put your mind to it and reach a full level of ascendance in this lifetime, you can. There's no rules. I just want to put that out there. So let's get into the reading itself. So over here, we talked about through your lessons in life you have to learn, the concepts and ideas. You're halfway through. You're at the kind of turning point, which is awesome. And this is when we talk about the idea of the first sort of, I don't know if I would call this the thesis, but we'll just say abstract idea that can be shown in multiple ideas that we're overcoming. So it talks about being both detached. There's times when you're going to want to detach from a situation, not allow yourself to take things too personally, realize that maybe if someone's pushing you away, not to get consumed in that idea, but pull away and understand what's going on. And when you're more detached, you're able to kind of see it from their point of view and not take it too personally and understand the greater scope of how we all interact. But also there are times when you don't want to detach too much. And it talks about the idea of celebrating your inner uniqueness and being more involved. So it's a totally opposing concept. And so when you want to be more involved, this is when you're being your truest self. This often deals with beauty and confidence and creativity and expression. And then there's times we can focus on the detachment, more focusing on uncomfortable time periods. If you feel like you're having trouble processing the way someone's interacting with you, you're having trouble understanding why didn't you get that thing that you were trying to manifest, it's detaching in order to take a more observational perspective. The goal isn't for you to take an observational perspective. It's the beginning stages of you taking an observational perspective. One, to save your heart and not hurt yourself in order to then more smoothly enjoy when we talk about being more connected, but also to learn something that you can't, sometimes you want to learn, you're going to learn things by being super connected and in the flow and very aware and present, and other times you're going to learn something from being basically the bird in the sky and having that bird's eye objective point of view, which is interesting. So the first way you can experience a sort of detachment is over here in unexpected visitors. So it seems like you have sort of a goal in life and a path you're kind of always pushing yourself on, and it can detour in some unexpected ways. And we can actually get more specific about those obstacles and the ideas behind them. And this is implying that yes, obstacles, while they might be unforeseen, aren't necessarily a bad thing. This card pops up in a really beautiful, pleasant way of saying you are meant to be both somebody who plans and gets distracted. So you've got your goal, you've got your idea, maybe you've got one job because you're hoping to get to the next or whatever, and suddenly you get distracted, you meet the love of your life at the current job you're at, and then that becomes your new point of interest. You're meant to live that kind of hybrid life, and that this is a positive omen that the universe and your spirit guides are headed, always pushing you towards ultimately the right direction, but you're not meant to see every step of the way. So what feels like your path detouring, like a bunch of veins in a tree, is actually a straight line in a very fourth dimensional sort of perspective, which I find really interesting. So let's talk about the idea of making a plan and getting detoured. Over here we have the Knight of Cups. This is you expressing yourself, creativity, fluidity, that super present sort of mindset. And then this is the obstruction or the path you didn't expect to take. This is just one example. And the Hierophant is more of the detached persona. They are somebody who's looking over all the knowledge. This is somebody who plays by the rules. And so it's this feeling of oh no, I'm not able to be my creative self. Well, now is the time to take that creativity and transform it in this sort of form or method and kind of go with the flow of what this then lesson has to teach you. See how there's this sort of duality? You're meant to embody both, but not one for 20 years and another for 20 years. You're meant to kind of hybrid between the two by then being okay, now I have to take on this more serious traditional sort of role and mindset, and now I'm going to go back to being more free-flowing and loving, and you're kind of bouncing around between the two whenever the opportunity presents itself and it's necessary. So that's cool, and we love that. So it talks about, again, that idea of detachment and then being super present and included. But let's keep going, because when we have the Devil card in reverse, this talks about something not working, like a cycle and it ending. The cycle ending here is when there is something being forced and made to happen when it's not supposed to. I want you to pay attention to the mirror, because this mentality that's breaking is what's starting the new mindset. This pivotal role you're in between in ascendance is the pivotal. You're basically taking on all of this in order to build a new mindset. These are the building blocks to the mindset. So if you notice here, she's looking in a mirror, but she sees no reflection. And when you have the Devil card, it's like somebody who's taking on unhealthy habits. We're not talking about you having an unhealthy habit in this lifetime. We're just using it as an example. And she looks in the mirror and she hopes to see the version of herself that she wants it to be. But there's nothing there. It doesn't mean anything. And we talk about the detached perspective. It just means that there's no reflection in this particular mirror. But she forces a view. She wants it to happen. She starts to create the person she wants to see, maybe the person she thinks she deserves to see, and it's a negative persona. Whatever it may be, it's this feeling of forcing something that doesn't need to necessarily be there. If the mirror's blank, what is that telling us? You know what I mean? If you're not getting anything back, what's that saying? If it wasn't what you expected, okay, well, let's be open to then the next chapter. It's a sense of openness by allowing the unexpected. We talked about her when you have a plan and being okay with the detours. In this persona, if it was upright, she'd not be okay with the detours. And with it being in reverse, again, it's another confirmation of someone being okay with the detours. Same thing over here. We have her expressing herself, this creativity, this flow, and this unexpected. Sorry, I hope you cannot hear my neighbors like talking outside. Hopefully you can. Hopefully we're just vibing here and we're in this you can hear them outside. Don't worry, we're almost done. So, and then this is sort of the wall or kind of blockage we talked about in the mirror, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The Hierophant has something to learn, so to speak, something else they can take on knowledge-wise. This is what you can learn. What can you get from that? So the Ace of Swords is the new mindset of someone who's down with the making a plan, but being okay with detours, being flexible between these two different personalities, understanding that there's always something new to learn, and being both insightful enough to be like, okay, I know enough to feel confident to move forward. I need some sort of a plan. I'm moving forward, but I'm okay with the plan changing and learning new things and making up a new plan and being open to that. So it's about the openness and the readiness and the flexibility and embodying all these different things at once that enables the new mindset, which we love. You can see where there's a lot of contradiction going on here, but it all seamlessly works out. So I hope you're excited about this and you're like, oh, that makes sense why everything keeps going back and forth. I'm not lost or confused. I'm totally on the right path. If you enjoyed this reading as much as I did, please consider giving the video a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. I will see you in the next one. Have a lovely day. Bye!